Welcome back to my channel, Famous and Fabulous. Willie Nelson, the famous country music singer, sits in a quiet, dark room. The happy look in his eyes is gone, replaced with a sad look as he fixes his old cowboy hat. Today, he's ready to tell his story. For years, he has kept quiet about his friendship with his old friend Leon Russell, who also made music with him. But now, with a heavy breath, Willie leans forward and talks. Leon was amazing, one of the best musicians I ever got to work with. Willie starts, his voice steady but with something deeper in it. But the truth is, Leon wasn't an easy person. He had his problems, his inner battles, and sometimes those battles won against him. It's a story that feels as honest as it's surprising. For many years, Leon Russell was loved as a music genius, a piano player with mystery as thick ashes, long white beard. But behind the dark sunglasses and stage act, there was a man fighting his own darkness. Today, Willie opens the curtain, showing the other side of a famous person few people dared to talk about. Leon Russell and Willie Nelson met at an important time in the late 1960s when music was changing rules, and so were they. Both were rebels, going against the shiny mainstream music with a love for mixing country, rock, blues, and gospel into something rough and lasting. On stage, their connection was amazing, making moments that felt bigger than real life. But when not performing, thestory was much more stormy. Leon had a way of pulling people close, a magnetic presence that made you feel part of something special. But that same charm came with a storm of opposites. He was very independent, a man who lived by his own rules and hardly ever gave in. That stubborn way, while part of his genius, also made problems. In the recording studio, those problems often exploded. Leon's need for perfection was never ending, a tool that pushed limits but also started angry fights. He had a vision, and anything less than perfect was not okay. The creative process, while making brilliant music, often left hurts both emotional and physical. Their friendship grew strong in moments of sudden ideas, late-night music sessions and shared stages, but it wasn't without its fights. Leon's intensity could be too much, his drive both a good thing and a bad thing. The music they made was groundbreaking, but the price of that magic sometimes stayed long after the last note was played. Leon Russell was a man whose brilliance matched his explosive temper. His huge personality, while amazing on stage, often burned bridges with other people. Among his music friends, he was both loved and hated. A genius with a temper as fiery as the music he made. Working with Leon was never simple. His vision was unique and he demanded total control. For many, working with him felt less like teamwork and more like surviving a storm. The Mad Dogs Englishman tour of 1970 was maybe the best example of his two sides. Officially, it was Joe Cockerstauer, but behind the scenes, Leon was the one in charge, controlling every note, every move, and every choice. To some, it was exciting to watch such command in action. To others, it was choking. The chaos of the tour wasn't just outside. It leaked into the relationships of those involved. Leon's need to control every detail, mixed with his strong belief in his own vision, pushed away many of his music partners, including Cocker himself. By the end, the breaks were impossible to ignore, and several musicians walked away promising never to work with Leon again. Willie Nelson saw this side of Leon up close. While their friendship lasted, it wasn't without its battles. Leon's refusal to give in often tested the limits of even the strongest friendships. In the studio, his perfectionism could be overwhelming, creating a place where creativity and tension crashed together. Suggestions or different ideas were rarely listened to. Leon knew what he wanted, and he made sure everyone else followed along or got out of the way. It was this never-giving-up drive that made him a musical force, but also a very difficult man. Those who worked with Leon were left amazed by his talent, but often tired by the experience. For Willie, it was a constant balancing act, recognizing the genius while dealing with the storm that came with it. Leon Russell's stormy nature, so clear in his work life, bled deeply into his personal world, leaving behind broken relationships and emotional hurts. While his music painted a picture of raw emotion and openness, the man himself often struggled to connect with those closest to him. His life at home was very different from the magnetic personality he showed on stage, a man driven by his art, but often at the cost of his family. His first marriage to singer Mary McCreary seemed like a perfect match on the outside. They shared not just a home, but also a stage, working together on albums that mixed their unique voices into something amazing. But behind the melodies, was a growing fight. Leon's never-ending drive and obsessive focus on his career left little room for the hard parts of marriage. The constant demands of life on the road and his inability or unwillingness to separate his role as a husband strained their bond to its breaking point. By 1980, the marriage ended in an angry divorce, a public falling apart of what had once seemed peaceful. Leon's second marriage brought some stability, but the emotional echoes of his first remained. He loved his family deeply, yet his devotion to music often overshadowed his presence as a father and partner. He was a man who poured every bit of himself into his craft, leaving little behind for the people who needed him most. His children, though proud of his legacy, carried the weight of his absence. While his songs spoke to the struggles of human life, at home he was often a distant figure, more myth than man, a father they looked up to but found hard to reach. By the time the 1980s came around, Leon Russell's once burning star had begun to fade. The music industry, always hungry for the next big thing, had moved on. Leon's refusal to follow the era's changing trends didn't help matters. His stubborn independence, once his defining strength, now left him stuck in a world that no longer celebrated his vision. His albums struggled to sell, and Theman, who once performed in big arenas, found himself performing in smaller, simpler venues. The contrast was harsh and unforgiving, a sharp fall from the heights of his rock and roll kingdom. It wasn't just the industry that left him. By this time, Leon had burned through many of his closest friendships. His uncompromising nature, which had long defined his artistry, had also pushed away those who might have stood by him during his decline. As the 1990s came, the loneliness became almost touchable. The brilliant magnetic figure, who had once commanded attention, now seemed lost, his legend fading into being forgotten. For Willie Nelson, watching this falling apart was a painful reminder of the double-edged sword of genius. Leon, he felt, was a man who deserved the world, but had pushed it too far away. As if the weight of being alone weren't enough, Leon's health began to fail him in the early 2000s. Decades of never-ending touring, a demanding lifestyle, and personal battles left his body worn and weak. Heart problems bothered him, and each passing year seemed to take away more of his once strong energy. Then came the devastating stroke in 2010, a cruel blow that left him, weakened and needing help in a way he'd always feared. Leon had built his life on control, commanding his music, his stage, and his image with unwavering precision. To lose that control was to lose a part of himself. For a brief, bittersweet moment, it seemed as though the universe gave him a break. In 2010, Elton John reached out, inviting Leon to work together on The Union, an album that brought the hidden artist back into the spotlight. It was a chance for the world to remember the genius they had forgotten. For Leon, it was a brief reminder of what once was a spark of approval amidst years of struggle. But even this moment of victory was overshadowed by his failing health. Behind the scenes, his body continued to fail him, and the stage, his safe place, became harder and harder to return to. The final years of Leon's life were a haunting mix of brief recognition and deep loneliness. He pulled back further into himself, the larger-than-life figure reduced to a shadow of his former glory. The man who'd once been at the center of it all was now on the outside, his struggles and isolation a quiet proof of the price of brilliance and the weakness of human dreams. Willie Nelson doesn't hide from Leon Russell's flaws. He was complicated. He had demons like we all do, he says, but he also talks about the brilliance that made Russell a legend. Leon could make a piano sing like no one else. He had a way of turning chaos into beauty. But thinking about their friendship, Willie ends, "Leon was a friend, but he was also a lesson. He taught me the importance of patience, of forgiveness. He wasn't perfect, far from it, but he was real." For fans, Russell's story is a bittersweet reminder of the cost of genius. He was a man who lived and created on his own terms, even when those terms led to conflict and being alone. In the end, his music speaks louder than his mistakes, a legacy that, despite the drama, continues to inspire. Willie Nelson's honest words reveal the full picture of Leon Russell, a man of huge talent, undeniable flaws, and a life as dramatic as his music. Its astery of brilliance and heartbreak, a reminder that even legends are human. He wasn't easy, Willie says, pausing as if searching for the right words. But damn, he was worth it.